Welcome to the Teacher Thoughts Podcast. I'm your host, Abby Hernandez. Teacher thoughts can be groundbreaking. Teacher thoughts can be tiring. And the good news is, teacher thoughts can be changed. I don't claim to be a mental health expert. I'm just an educator, and I'll be using this space to synthesize what I have learned from my self-help research in a way that will help you. This is episode 5. Thanks for being with me today. So when I was in elementary school, my stepmom bought me this sign that said, Abby's way or no way. And at first I was really excited about it because anytime I saw my name on something, like those little keychains that would be in alphabetical order, and I would find one that would say Abby, I would be so excited. I don't know if any of you had that same experience, and I don't have the most uncommon name in the world, but most of them would say Abigail. So when I would find one that would say Abby, I would get super duper excited. And so I was like, oh yay, she bought me something that has my name on it. But then I realized what it meant. And I was like, what are you trying to say here, my way or no way? So I was like, that's not who I am. I can get along with other people. Everything doesn't have to be my way. But as I've grown up, I've realized I really do like to control my circumstances. And I really do love when other people agree with me and go along with whatever I think is right in any sort of situation. So in school, it makes sense that I would go into a profession like that, right? Because in my classroom, my students, for the most part, have to do what I say. Of course, we want to increase student choice, but they have to do what I say, and then I have to do what my boss tells me, and my boss has to do whatever the board or the state tells them. So we're really in this hierarchy, and when I'm inside my own little classroom, inside my own little world, whatever I say, go. It's Abby's way or no way, right? So whenever things happen that are outside of my control, it often takes me a little time to adjust to that idea and to get over myself. So when it comes to COVID, that has totally rocked my world in the fact that it's changed lots of my circumstances in a way that were very frustrating to me. So before Christmas or holiday break, my brother-in-law got sick, and turns out he tested positive for COVID-19. Then my own 2 toddlers had it as well, and so I had to stay home for a week before break. And so I was like, well, at least if I'm going to get sick, it's going to happen over break, and then I'll have plenty of time to recover. And so I just kind of got over it. I'm like, all right, we'll start fresh in the new year. So then what happens is I'm fine most of the break. We do our quarantine and respect the time that we were supposed to stay home. As far as I could tell, we hopefully got our dates right. And so then I went to my mom's house to exchange gifts with her, stayed away from all other family gatherings, and wore a mask and everything. And so then I come back home, and on January 2nd, I started getting sick. And then I went in to get tested on Monday, and I was also positive for COVID. And I was so upset. It was completely out of my control at this point. And then I thought I should have stayed home. I never should have gone to my mom's house. I thought that I had waited it out and that everything was okay. And it was just not in my plans to be sick right before we were supposed to go back to school. So here I am home. Other people are supposed to be covering my classroom. They could not find a sub, so other people from our school are having to fill in for me. And whenever I found this out, I felt completely powerless. So I had congestion for like a month. Ever since my brother-in-law was sick, I was congested, but I had gotten so many negative tests that I thought it was just the normal congestion that I get in the cold months. And it probably was for a while. But then that Saturday, I started feeling weird in my throat, kind of like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, it was like a little bit sore, but not really. It more just kind of felt like I had something stuck in my throat. And so I woke up at like 3 a.m. and I could tell something was different. So I went to the bathroom and I tried to smell the soap and I couldn't smell anything. So then I went and I smelled the toothpaste, couldn't smell that, smelled the bleach, couldn't smell that, smelled coffee, couldn't smell that. Looking back on that, that was really dumb. When you suspect you might have a virus that causes a world pandemic, don't go sticking your nose in all the consumables. Not recommended. But I guess hindsight's 2020. Am I right? This is why I love podcasting, because I can't see your reactions to my awful sense of humor. If you want to share negative feedback, however, feel free to email me at teacherthoughtspodcast@gmail.com and I'll work on it. Okay. So anyway, when I found this out, like I said, I was so powerless, annoyed, upset, and I felt guilty about how everyone else was going to have to do my job for me in my absence. So then I thought, okay, I'm on this journey to be able to control my thoughts. This is my circumstance. It's out of my control at this point. I can't go back in time and not get it, but I can control my thoughts. But I was totally not ready for that. I needed to feel that emotion. It would have not been genuine if I tried to put on a positive face and just move on. I had to sit in that guilt and annoyance and feeling of being powerless for a little while. And so for about a day and a half, I just went around telling my husband and everyone around me how awful this was. Why didn't I get sick earlier? All of these things. So then after I got it out of my system, I was like, okay, I have said the same thing over and over. It's not changing. I'm ready to move on to the next step. So in my studies, I've been learning that the next thing to do would be a thought download. And you just literally write down every thought that you have in your head on a piece of paper just to get it out. And then you'd take some of those and you'd take it through a complete model. This is my thought. This is how it makes me feel. This is the action that I take, and this is the result. And I didn't have it in me to go through and do that. So the first thing I thought was, every teacher loves a good T-chart. Am I right? So I made a T-chart, and on the left-hand side, I put all of my thoughts, my negative thoughts about what I was going through. And then on the right-hand side, I listed all of my positive thoughts, and I called it a thought swap T-chart. And I might change that because I'll explain in a minute. So anyway, for example, on the left-hand side, it would say, this is the worst timing. And on the right-hand side, it would say, actually, if it had started on a Monday, then you would have had to been out 2 entire weeks instead of the 6 days or whatever that I'm actually going to have to be out. And then also I said I should have been sick when my son was sick, and then I wouldn't have to deal with it right now. But then on the right-hand side, I said, I wouldn't have been able to take as good care of my son if I were sick at the same time. Then on the left-hand side, I was like, this is a super long time to be out. And on the right-hand side, I was like, some people are out for maternity leave for 12 weeks or more. This is not the longest a teacher has ever been out. And I just went through, and every single thought that came to my head, this is awful. I hate doing this to my team. And on the right-hand side, I was like, I have an amazing team, and I would do the same thing for them if they were in this situation. So I really just got all of it down on paper, and I didn't really pressure myself to swap it out. That's why I'm saying that I might not need to call it that, because I didn't pressure myself to say you only need to believe the right side positive things, but rather I let these thoughts coexist in my brain. So instead of having only negative thoughts, I invited the positive thoughts in, and it didn't have to be this or that, but it was this and that. So when people talk about whether people are positive or negative people, they always ask the question, Are you a glass half full kind of person, or are you a glass half empty kind of person? Well, why do they even ask that question? Instead of asking that question, shouldn't they, whoever it is who's asking this, just be encouraging us to see the glass is half full and half empty? Like, isn't that the truth? Any glass that is half full is also half empty. So when we start seeing life that way, is 50% positive and 50% negative, then it allows us to let the negativity stop dominating and ruminating and keeping us up late. Okay? So something about allowing for some balance just takes the edge off of that awful feeling. So once I invited those new thoughts in, I still felt powerless and annoyed and guilty, but I also felt a little bit relieved and more understanding, and started to focus on the things that I could control. So I got online and made a lot of video resources and tried to do things that would allow my students to access the content through me instead of putting all of the pressure on whoever was filling in for me at school. So, I mean, I really, really felt those emotions. I had a good cry for myself, my students, and my team. But then, because of this work that I talked to you about in the podcast, the thought work, I was able to not spiral out, so avoid going through my spiral and becoming paralyzed by my intense emotions. And I was able to get to work and do the things. This has been episode 5 of Teacher Thoughts. Come back next time for an episode on enrichment activities. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.